Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Sikh Channel team is very pleased to be here in Trinidad with members of the local Sindhi community. I'm joined by Narendra Kripani and Divya Kripani, who have been living in Trinidad for all their lives. So let's meet them and find out more about their lives in Trinidad and also about the Sindhi community. Perhaps we can start with you, Narendra. Can you please tell us where you were born and how you ended up in Trinidad?
Okay. I was born in Trinidad because my father migrated from Sindh and came here to settle. But after a few years, he couldn't take the weather. He had asthma, so he moved on to Hong Kong. I moved on with my mother to India and then to Bombay, really, and then moved to Hong Kong after a few years. Then I had my primary, my secondary in Hong Kong, and then I went to the States and got my bachelor's degree and then came to Trinidad to work.
And you came here in the 70s, but your family had to move from the Indian subcontinent shortly after partition, because as we know, it's a very sad occasion for the Sindhi community. Partition was a disaster. It meant that all the Sindhi community were caught in Pakistan and millions were dispersed as a result. Divya, can you tell us about that period, what you know from your family and the stories you've heard?
Oh, that was a traumatic time. It was horrible. They had to run for their lives. A lot of them left with only the clothes on their backs and whatever they had. If they had any jewelry, they had to hide it within the folds of their clothing or underwear and things like that. Those who could not run away were actually injured, molested, all kind of things.
And because Sindh was caught with partition in Pakistan, the Sindhi community have become great travellers, and they're to be found in every corner of the world. And there was a small but thriving Sindhi community here in Trinidad. Can you tell us about that, Mr. Kirpani?
Well, the Sindhis were basically, a good few of them were working for my uncle's company, which was Kiplani's Limited, because he was able to get a work permit for them to come here. Otherwise, there were a few like Narwani and Kemlanis and so on, whose father also set up their shops, and they were also in retail, but in a small scale as compared to my uncle, who was in a big scale.
And Divya, how did you end up in Trinidad, of all places? Because not many people have heard of this small island, perhaps even to this date. If you ask a lot of people in India, they may not be able to find Trinidad on the map.
Yeah, strangely enough, I had a Sikh friend, and she lives in New York right now, and we were so friendly, we hated the thought of parting. She ended up getting a proposal from this young guy in New York, and so I said, okay, I'm going to come and live somewhere close by. Well, lo and behold, Narendra came around and took me here.
And you've been here for most of your life?
Over 40 years.
And what difficulties did you face when you first came? Did you like it, or did you find it very difficult?
It was very difficult. I knew absolutely nobody except my husband, and I vaguely knew his family. I was not allowed to go out with people. I was not allowed to go out with the driver to do shopping. I was not allowed to talk to friends. There were no friends. All I could do was sit out on the porch and look at the scenery and read my books. That was it.
So it's quite a difficult early life for you. And Narendra, did you have to struggle a lot in the early years, in the 70s and 80s?
I would say definitely not while I was at Kiplani's, because I was learning and I was sort of graded up every time, you know, with my own experience, how to set up a store, how to do store. So I was opening up the stores. But in 1986, when it all fell, well, then, of course, was a struggle that I had to do something. By that time, I had 2 children. Well, the third one was there. So I had to make sure that I struggled and get a retail store and start up from fresh.
And the Sindhi community are very enterprising. I know lots of Sindhi friends, and most are in business. Can you tell us about that? Why the Sindh is very enterprising? Is that part of their culture or heritage?
I think I always look back, the Sindhis had no choice. They had nowhere to go back. People reflect what they have in the back, their family business, their family thing. In Sindh, they had nothing to go back to. So they had to do something to survive. So in doing that, they went all over the world, worked hard, and built up themselves. It's like the Chinese. When they go to a place, they set up a Chinese restaurant. So you'll find a Chinese restaurant everywhere in the world, just like you'll find a Sindhi, because he was looking for any place where he could settle and make money.
Retail.
In retail, mainly. Only a few that I know went. We were in, also in factories here. We had about 10 factories, but not too many people I know had factories. My partner's relatives in Spain, they set up a factory too. So a few did.
And Divya, not having a state of Sindh in India, is it a loss of identity? Is the language, the Sindhi language, diminishing as a result, do you think? Because the Sikhs have Punjab, and we do a lot to keep our Punjabi language alive, Punjabi culture. Our Sikh faith is very important to us, and we have our own state within India. But the Sindhi community don't have that. And is that a big setback for your community? Is it leading to a diminishing of your culture or language?
Absolutely. All the other Indians have the background and support of having their own state. This helps encourage communities on a small and large scale, where they have interaction between news media, TVs, excuse me, and movies, etc., and lots of information. The culture is brought down, their social customs are brought down. Sindhis have been literally thrown out like a wisp of air and have had to fly and reach wherever they could. Hence, you will find Sindhis are trying to hold on to their language as much as they can. Some of them have willingly given up on it too, because they found there was no back support from any Sindhi community. Okay, having said that, that Sindhis have dispersed all over the world and are into business, there is a big group of people, not one, but quite a few. There's one wonderful group in Pune, and they're actually schooling the children. The children are learning how to read and write. They do skits and whatnot. I've even recently seen a radio channel on of Sindhi's youngsters, teenagers, 20-year-olds are actually putting out Sindhi music. And they're even coming up with Sindhi skits and whatnot. So they are trying to bring back something. I think Pune is more or less a base for it. I'm not sure about it, but this is what I've heard.
That's tremendous. And anything the Sikh channel or Sikh community can do to support the Sindhi community, we'd be very pleased to do so. The Sindhi community have always been close to the Sikh community, culturally and religiously. And if there's anything we can do to support any of the initiatives, we will be finding out more from the various Sindhi groups to see if we can support. And I was very pleased to meet you at the Gurdwara in Trinidad. It's a very small Gurdwara. And most of the Sangat, the people attending the congregation, were made up of non-Sikhs. The Sikhs were in a minority in the Gurdwara. And most of the people attending were either Sindhi or from a Hindu or Indian background. So it's very nice to meet you there. And what can you tell us about the Sindhi attachment to the Gurdwara? Because I've seen in many places where I visit in the world, the Sindhi community do attend the Gurdwara.
Yeah, well, the Sindhis not having their own place of worship, and they were thrown out of Sindh. So what happened after that is they needed something to resonate with. Punjab being next door to Sindh, as you know, we were quite well versed with Guru Nanak and all the gurus and the teachings. I remember when I was a little girl, Mummy used to read all these books to me, all about Guru Nanak's life, when he was young, when he went and he was lying down and sleeping and he was helping somebody else out, and the maid went and kissed his toe and found out all about that. And then the roti with the blood and the milk. I know about all these stories. Mummy has read all of them to me. So not having any not being able to follow the actual religion, which is Jhulelal is the patron saint of the Sindhis, not being able to follow it as well as we would like to. The Sindhis have moved on to different ways of satisfying that spiritual religious need within themselves by following Shiva and Krishna and Guru Nanak and many others, which of course is not bad, because basically when we look at it, everything is just one God. It's just different faces we're looking at.
Absolutely. And Mr. Kripalani, would you like to add to that the Sindhi community worldwide do revere and follow the teachings of Guru Nanak Dev Ji?
Well, I would say so, but in Trinidad also they do follow the Hindu religion in the temples and so on. So I would say they're well versed in both language and both religion, and everything. But I haven't seen too many Catholics, so I would say more between the Hindu and the Sikh.
Thank you very much. And looking forward, what is the future for you in Trinidad, your children? Do they consider themselves Trinidadians, and will they make a life here?
The children, well, they have moved on out of here, studying in the US. So once they're qualified over there, somehow Trinidad does not have proper job opportunities for them. So unfortunately, we're not looking at them coming back to settle down over here unless they open up something of their own. Then that would be a different story. It's just a little difficult once you're more educated than what the island can offer you concerning jobs.
The Sindhi community is dwindling here. Mr. Kripalani, you mentioned one time there might have been 100 or more Sindhi community people in Trinidad, but that number is decreasing. Is that trend likely to continue? And will there be less and less Sindhis here as they move to other parts of the world?
Actually, basically, a lot of the Sindhis were working in Kiplanis Limited. So when it failed, they migrated to other places. So that has caused the decreasing. But as time goes on, when the families get more children, we'll be more or less okay. But the problem with children is we don't speak to them in Sindhi. So as you rightly said, the Sindhi language is going down, and their link with Sindh or anything like Sindhi is certainly diminishing. So the answer would be, in population, maybe they might go up because of children, but in language and other things, they're going to go down.
So potentially a lost legacy here in Trinidad. The Sindhi community is decreasing in numbers. Also, language is very important. It's a lesson for us, for the Punjabi community. The Sikh community must attach and keep a strong connection to our Punjabi language. It's something that we encourage on Sikh channel. And we're speaking in English today because my Sindhi is not very good, and your Punjabi is not great. So we're using English. Having said that, Divya, you speak many languages?
Just Hindi, Sindhi, and English, and a very little bit of Tamil.
So you know many languages. And what are your final thoughts, Mr. Kripalani? You're now running an enterprise here. You've seen a lot of change in Trinidad. What's the future for this island?
That's a very good question. Politically, is not too sound and stable. That is the problem. But as far as going anywhere else, we are settled here and we will stay here and face. But I do not expect any serious recession or any such thing. But politically and climate and safety and criminal-wise, we are getting problems over here.
And Divya, you've spent most of your adult life in Trinidad. What are your thoughts looking back on your life and looking forward in terms of your identity and the future? Are you a Sindhi? Are you a Trinidadian? Are you an Indian of Pakistan heritage? Sindhis now in Pakistan. Where do you place yourself in the world, and how do you look to the future?
I think I am me. I'm an Indian and I am me. There's no Sindhi, there's no anything else. Where do I stand here? Where do I go? I have learned so much coming here to this island. It's fabulous. The wisdom, the maturity, the knowledge, the everything. It's amazing, everything that I have been able to learn over here, and I wouldn't trade it in for anything else on earth. I think if I were living in India, I may not have been able to have the opportunities I've had to learn and expand my knowledge like I have been allowed to over here. So for me, this is a wonderful place to be in. And having spoken about all the crime and everything he mentioned, yes, we do have it, but only in certain sectors. We have a good, very small group of friends. We're very happy with the way things are going, and I'm sure it will continue and improve.
That's great, a very optimistic message. You've enjoyed your life in Trinidad, and whilst it might have been difficult, you've seen it in a very positive life, and Trinidad has a lot to offer, and I'm sure there's still good opportunities here. Mr. Kripani, what's your final message to the viewers watching, many of the Punjabi viewers and Sindhis who are watching this? What's your final message?
Good question. Well, final would be stay on your track, be positive about life. There are ups and downs everywhere. All of us have it. And stay focused, believe in God, whichever one you want, and however you think of it, but believe in yourself, more important than anything else.
Thank you very much. And Divya, what message would you like to give to the viewers about your experiences live, Trinidad, and looking forward to the future?
I will say we all have hardships coming at us, around us at all times. One thing to remember is sweet are the uses of adversity. Remember that when you have your hardest times, that is the best time you can learn, and you can make the most of yourself at that time. You can improve yourself, you can expand your knowledge, your wisdom, everything. You can make yourself into a better person by just internalizing and realizing that it's not just you. It is your connection with your divinity, with your God, with your spiritual being. And this is where you will, once you focus there, you will be able to prosper, you will expand, you will move forward, you will flourish, you will, everything. There's no turning back.
That's tremendous. Thank you very much for that message. Mr. and Mrs. Kripani, members of the Sindhi community here in Trinidad, also supporters and contributors to the local Gurdwara, a very historic Gurdwara. It's very nice to meet you there on Sunday, and we hope to see you continue to support the Gurdwara and be part of the local community. Thank you very much for joining us and sharing your thoughts on Sikh Channel. Thank you very much. Thank you.